Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys. This is Dharam Singh and your host for today's webinar. Sorry for the delay. We had a little, I should not a technical problem, but some problem. Dr. Nazier has to go to hospital and he's trying to join while he's sitting in the car and he don't have the camera's not working. But while he's in the way or he's in the hospital, he is still trying to help us out. He's promised, so he will be going to spend time with us. And I don't think there will be any problem with the quality, with the voice quality. I hope you can hear me at least, you can see me. And I think Dr. Nazier, can you say a few words?
Yes, hi. Hello, everyone. Hi, Dharam. I'm going to try and use my voice as much as possible to express my facial expressions. This is a bit of an emergency that I had to get out of and get onto this webinar. But hopefully we'll have a good discussion and we'll be able to provide some valuable information to our listeners.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dr. Nazier. This is really, really kind of you. I know I should not be calling you at this time, but it's just because we have promised to our attendees. So, only the other option is we cancel or postpone it. So let's see how we go. And I'm sure you can still talk and you can do everything what was planned for today's session.
Absolutely.
Okay. So all right. So let me get started, and I will introduce Dr. Mohamed Nazier, and he was my student, PgMP student in 2018, and he passed his PgMP on 3rd of June 2028. So he is from Qatar, Middle East, and he has been traveling around the world. Whenever I'm calling him, he either in US, Canada, or in Qatar. So he is involved in multi-billion dollar work, multi-billion dollar projects. And he is working for a company called
WSP.
WSP is the largest, very large engineering firm. They have been doing lots of great work around the world. And I'm very, very honored to have him. First of all, he was my student, so that's really honored to have such a profile to be my student. And then now having him on the webinar. And as I said, because of some emergency, he has to come to hospital, and he's keeping his promise. He's not able to share his webcam, but we'll try our best to give the best out of us. So once again, thanks everyone for joining this session. And thank you, Dr. Mohamed Nazier. We'll get started.
Thank you, Dharam. Just a quick introduction about myself, just to, for clarity. So I'm Egyptian American. I live currently in the Middle East, and I work for WSP, which is one of the top global engineering consultants. And we do work in the UAE, Qatar, Saudi, Kuwait, and obviously the rest of the world, but that's where I am focused. And I have been involved in multiple transportation infrastructure projects and programs around the globe. And it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Great. Thank you very much. So this is one advantage you get, yes, you do the PgMP, but you get to come to the webinar, and if you're keen, of course, I don't want to drag you unless you're really interested. But if you have done something really good and you wanted to share with the fellow program managers, project managers on the world, so this is a really good platform. So previously we had other participants, and they have really contributed to this session. And today we have Dr. Mohamed Nazier. So with no further delays, let me get started. So I'd like to acknowledge that we are going through a very tough time, very, very tough time. And I'm not talking about the bushfire going around where I am. So that's a kind of a yearly thing. But beyond that is the COVID-19 is going around, and it's actually more than 7 months. It's impacting every industry. Many industries are getting impacted, and the people losing jobs. and work is going, if he can talk more about how it's impacted the construction industry. But I'm seeing the impact everywhere, whether it's entertainment, whether it's the airline industry, and whether hotel or any industry effects, you are getting some kind of impact. Yes, there are some in other industries they're thriving in this environment, especially hospitals and pharmaceuticals and medical related organizations, and maybe like a DoorDash and Uber, sorry, not Uber, Amazon. They are doing really good, especially home delivery. But yeah, we need to acknowledge that this is a tough time, and it's impacting emotionally, financially, medically, spiritually. But what we can do in this tough environment, staying positive, and that is the biggest cure, or staying positive, supporting not only yourself but your family or your neighborhood or whoever you knows. So that's what we can do, and this is what we can do as a human being, to look after whatever we can around us and support each other. And so that's where I started this series. I am not able to travel, which I used to do. I mean, my last trip was to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in February, and yeah, that was really awesome experience. I like to go back again, but yes, we have to wait for this COVID to settle down. So that doesn't mean I'm missing the flight, the food from the airplane or something else. But yes, I am staying. While I'm staying in my garage, not staying in the garage, but my office is in the garage, and I'm able to contribute to many program managers, project managers, portfolio managers. So I'm trying my best to contribute back to the community by bringing the audience, bringing the great speakers, and to provide you the best value from these programs. And Dr. Nazier, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
Okay. Something missing in my screen. I don't see your name on my screen, so that's why I got worried.
Yeah, okay. I think electronics is not helping us today, but we'll get over it.
Yep, no worries. So, guys, once again, thank you, and hope we can continue to give you this value through today's program and ongoing programs. So please stay with us, and feel free to share your experience, ask questions, and please put some names if you really think that you want to contribute, or you want to see somebody on the panel, and you're more than welcome to connect them to me. All right. Yes, Dr. Mohamed Nazier, you have lots of questions for me, and I'm expecting a lot of questions from audience as well. So with your experience, we'll talk about the questions and about your experience. But let me start your journey, and that journey when we start talking in 2018. You joined my personal mentoring program when you were in Qatar and I was in Sydney, and you completed your journey with flying colors in those days. And then what happened? First of all, I'd like to know your experience as a PgMP, how you got there, and then I would like to see how the PgMP is helping you to contribute to whatever work billion-dollar work you're doing. If you don't mind, please.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I would like to start by really thanking you, Dharam. The journey for the PgMP for me started a little bit late. When I decided I want to go for a PgMP certification, I was already on a long journey with program management, and doing my research and trying to take the PgMP exam. I came across your website, and then when we started talking, your methodology, your way of arranging and preparation for the examination, but also the content, right? The real meaning behind the exam, because this is what most professionals, I would say, experienced professionals are after, not the designation as PgMP certified, but actually the value behind it. And you do a very good job in defining and clarifying this. So this isn't, so I started studying on my own. I spent about a year, and being as busy as I am, I wasn't getting too far. The reading helped, of course, and it clarified and actually structured the way I think more than before I did take the course. But after I did your curriculum and went into the exam, I actually used a lot of what came out of the exam, not only with my team, but also with the client's team. So most PgMP engagements are inside client organizations, making changes, adapting, dealing with COVID, dealing with other crises, dealing with successes, delivering benefits, establishing governance boards. So I've taken this, put it into practice, and I tell you the structure that it put into place was invaluable. So let me start first by thanking you about this.
Thank you. Thank you for joining, trusting my guidance.
Absolutely. So I've taken the learning from the course. I've taken the designation to put into place more structure into what we do. Also, part of the induction for newcomers into the program, and it's quite a large program. We have about 150 infrastructure projects on site. The value is about $30 billion in construction fees. So it's very important that you're structured in bringing people in the way you deliver benefits, in the way you manage your governance, in every aspect of the PgMP learning. The more disciplined you are in leading it, the better you deliver. And that's the part that I've taken away from our discussions and the course and the exam, and made more rigorous into what the day-to-day business that I do.
Perfect. Great.
So that's at a nutshell what I took into the program. And one very I would say very interesting finding is many clients, even though they write their RFPs, we help them, don't really get to understand the real benefit they're after from big programs, especially until they really sit down, put the details together and say, this is really my main measure. And then from there, take it to sub benefits and so on. And this is something that was very clear after our discussions, after putting this into practice, coming up with a high level. This is the main benefit that we're after from this program, and then trickling it down to the different teams and the different stakeholders. So I hope this gives some insight to my journey related to PgMP. I don't want to take too much time, so we can go through a lot of the other discussions that you have planned. So let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about.
That's okay. And can you give me, can audience get some feeling of the kind of work you're doing? Something, very large program you're working on at the moment.
Sure, absolutely. So what we're doing under the current program is delivering infrastructure across the country. So infrastructure meaning electricity, water, stormwater drainage, foul drainage, roads, road furniture, and landscaping, hard and soft landscaping. So basically, if you think of any of the neighborhoods where you go and start developing, anything but the actual buildings is what we deliver for our clients. And our role is to manage the full assembly line, if you will, the full from design to procurement, to the construction works, then to the handover to the end user. And that's in a nutshell what the program delivers, what I'm on now, which is the LRDP program.
Perfect. Great. All right, thank you. And so let me start my questions. I have a big list of questions. So starting with, and acknowledging again, going back to the COVID and how it is impacting your industry. So as I was looking some report, KPMG is saying the construction project worth $79 billion have been affected due to COVID-19. I was talking about the airline industry, other, but construction is badly hit. As a person coming from this industry, what are your thoughts about it, and how do you see the industry bouncing back? Because everybody's getting impacted. How are you bouncing as well? That's also important. What is the strategy you're applying?
Sure. So let me put into context what's being disturbed really because of COVID. So if you think about the magnitude that I just mentioned, 30 billion in construction, to deliver this, you need a large number of staff. So you need workers, you need foremen, you need supervisors, engineers, you need equipment, and obviously you need materials, and then all of the stakeholder engagement that go with it. So this is in the thousands, in the number of thousands, and they come from different parts of the world. The machines also, and the equipment and the material come from different parts of the world. So this is one of, and I wouldn't say this is the only, but this is one of the major impacts we have on such projects, because whether we like it or not, the logistics and the delivery of such resource, all of these resources has been impacted by COVID. So I would say this is the biggest impact in terms of infrastructure projects. Secondly, the contractors, who are the main engine behind delivery on site, have been impacted in many ways. So, for example, if we get a site where, God forbid, you have a COVID case, you'll need to shut down the site. You need to take the appropriate safety measures, which are entailed in a very detailed way in the way we do business after COVID. And this is a disruption to the work that you do. And you could have, as an example, you could have a tunnel boring machine boring underground, and then all of a sudden the staff up at the top have to be replaced very quickly, continue with the work while you deal with a COVID case. And we take these very seriously, because we take the health and safety of all of the employees very seriously. So that's another type of impact, which would be an operational impact on a day-to-day basis. And it has been very disruptive, especially at the early stages. And whether we like it or not, COVID is an unprecedented. So it's not like we had all of the answers, but we got better with time. So the operational impact was huge. Financial impact on many organizations. So it could be due to delay in delivery of materials, as I mentioned before. It could be due to delay and disruption to the contractor that the owner would have to then chip in and support. You could also see disruption in decisions, because whether we like it or not, big decisions, changes, variations, decisions on procurement, go, no goes, have been impacted due to the presence or the required presence of some people that were in the hospital or dealing with family matters. So that's another impact. And I would say the last but not least, in my view, and these are the top ones, is the psychological impact on a lot of people. Again, because of this being unprecedented, and because of, so you'd have fathers and mothers dealing with kids at home. You would have people working from home who've never done this before. The construction industry, in my view, is behind in digitization and the use of electronics in the way we manage our business. And that led to more disruption than other industries. So you look at other companies, not to mention just one, Google or Netflix or others. I think they were more equipped to deal with such an incident in terms of remote work than the construction industry. So if we recap, the disruption of the logistics of delivering the project, the disruption due to decision making, the disruption due to delays in making these decisions because of the situation in hand, and then the psychological impact on our projects has been significant.
Okay. And how do you think the industry going to come back? Let's say once it's settled down, the COVID is gone, or maybe minimum impact. So how do you think industry going to come back? Do you have any strategy, or your organization has any strategies?
Oh, of course. I mean, this is the positive news. I think when this whole COVID situation started, my message to the team, and they were looking at me like I was crazy, is we have to come out of this stronger.
Yeah.
And the reason I say, they were thinking I'm crazy, because the situation is not something that you can control, but you can adapt to. And I think we've done a lot of good work in terms of adaptation. We are seeing on my program and I can't speak for the whole world, but I've seen a lot of good articles around adaptation and recovery. On our program, we're seeing the later months after, I would say, the first 3 months of COVID. Progress on site is better. Everybody's more equipped. The anxiety behind dealing with COVID is less impactful to the team and to the projects. Digitization has kicked in, whether we like it or not. I think on the positive side of COVID, if there's such thing, having this disruptor into the equation led to a lot of the owners, engineers, contractors looking into digitization and better ways of doing business. And I think on the long run, we're already reaping some benefit, but I think on the longer run, companies and owners who start taking advantage of this wave of change will lead the industry going forward. And this is something that we at WSP and with our clients are spearheading. There's a lot of positive that came out of this disruption.
Yeah. So remote working capabilities and having, cloud-based system and automated system, where people can be working from anywhere. So making the companies more digital will help you at this stage in the construction or maybe other industries as well. So I think that's a future we are looking anyway, but now the future is already here. Unfortunately or fortunately, the future is here. We have to be more prepared to stay within the whatever we are dealing with, and also going forward. If what happens if this come back after 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, we don't want to say that, oh, we are not ready. I mean, we should be ready next going forward.
Absolutely, and as I mentioned, and as you just mentioned, Dharam, if companies and owners and generally the working force not taking advantage of this disruptor will not come out with a success story, and they might not be coming back actually at all if that's the case.
Yeah, at this stage we have to be more agile, more thinking on the feet and take decisions. Just like today, I'd like to remind a few other people who joined just now. Because of some emergency, Dr. Nazier has to visit hospital, but he has kept his promise. He's sitting in his car. His video is not working, but he is giving us as much as value he can. So once again, thank you, Dr. Nazier, for your kindness. And people, please be patient. Only thing you have to do is you don't see anybody other than me. So I hope you don't mind. And
it's a pleasure again, Dharam, and apologies to the people who can't see me. Dharam is very well dressed, seated, and I think he's doing a good job there. I'll use my voice to try and engage you as much as possible.
Great. All right, great. So guys who wanted to put some questions, there is a question pad on your screens. So use that as much as you can, write as many questions you can. And I will be, I don't have the PDU code. I'm waiting for PMI to approve my request, which should be coming to me today or tomorrow, any day. But I will give you a code, not for you. You will get an email. Whoever joined the session and you staying listening to us, you will get an email from us with a code. And people who are watching this webinar after, once we upload on the YouTube, I will share a code later on. You send an email that you have watched the video and this is a code. Then we'll give you a code to claim your PDU. I hope that will be okay. I don't want to create too many, administrative problems, but we have strict guidelines from PMI. The people who are really joining this session, they should be getting the PDU. So that's why normally I give the PDU during the class or during the session, but because I'm still waiting for the code to be approved, I cannot. I don't have the code. Anyway, let's continue. And so somebody has asked, hopefully everything okay with you, Dr. Nazier, and we appreciate your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you for the wishes, and yes, everything is good.
Great, great. And I have a question from an audience. So, good evening. What are the main factors you're focusing while executing a program? What are those essential formats need to be considered or updated on daily, weekly, and monthly basis for completing the program successfully? Yeah, good question.
It's a good question. Yes, I think so. It's two questions, I guess, is what I get.
Yeah.
So the first question is about the main focuses, I guess, the main controls, I guess, is what the question is. And if not, you can please retype it. So I would say, really, and maybe I should first answer the second question, which is what we focus on daily and weekly and periodically. Programs in general are big beasts, at least the ones that I've dealt with. So they have so many moving pieces, and if you read through different books, materials, examples of programs, you will know that it's about managing change. You know, programs are about managing change because they tend to be complex, long in durations, and involving many stakeholders. So you're really managing change all the time. So I would say in terms of priorities, in terms of what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly, number one, you have to prioritize for yourself and your team. This is an absolute must. When you dive into a program, if you don't have priorities, you will not succeed. You will just be drowning and firefighting most of the time. So you should, at the early stages of a program, prioritize your actions in terms of setting up. And this is where PgMP is very good and where Dharam can help. So, governance. How are you governing your program? What are the benefits? Make sure you nail it down with your client, with your counterpart. Make sure that you nail down the benefit. Because if you go down the line and in a year's time or 6 months or even 3 months, wasting a lot of resources and you realize you're not delivering the actual benefit that the client is looking for, or that you yourself is looking for if you're the client yourself, it's going to be bad for you. I would then look at stakeholders management. So you look at the elements really of all of the PgMP. This is where you should start when you set up your program, and these should be priorities for you to set it up. And then you should set up from your priorities, you should set up your strategic objectives. You should set up your team. It's very important to have the right resources. Again, projects and programs, completely different animals, because projects tend to have usually smaller teams, and recovery is much easier than in programs. So you want to have the right team in place. As you get into more of the delivery mode, you want to continuously update all of your plans and take out of these plans your periodic meetings, especially the important governance meetings that will allow you to manage change. Remember, we said change from day one. This is what program is about. So how do you manage change? How does change impact all of the elements that I just mentioned? And change could impact your delivery. In some cases, change in, let's say, government can impact your governance itself. So you'll have to be ready and agile to deal with these changes. And you need to retain your top talent. So you always should look at your talent and make sure that you retain it. And you have to train your talent. So no matter how senior, junior your talent is, you look at programs of succession, you look at programs of retention, and you look at trainings that will keep them keep them to shape. Because again, programs can eat up your team if you're not taking care of them. So that's the second question, and I hope this is it's a short answer, but I'm trying to keep enough time for everybody's questions. The first question about I think was the focus of programs. What was the first question, Dharam?
Yeah. So while executing, so what are the main factors you got focusing while executing the program?
Sure.
While executing,
So the main factors would be change and benefits. Managing, delivering benefits and managing change, and that's at a very high level. And then in doing this, you have to maintain your team.
Yeah,
to maintain your team, you have to prioritize, and yes, you have to prioritize and you have to train and develop and success plan and keep doing that as you go.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, now I am moving to next question. In your opinion, what do you consider the ideal attributes for a successful project or program leader?
Okay, that's a very good question. So I'll try not to repeat myself and some of the things I already said. So a good program leader, in my view, has to be a good leader in general, someone that you would look to be led by, and someone who is very agile, a good listener, extremely empathetic, and strategic, but has a good eye for details as well. And this could be through the team. So strategic in the way they manage programs. If you try and manage perfection, you will fail. So strategic in the way they manage the program and the benefits, but then detail-oriented enough to make sure that the moving pieces are always being taken care of. And obviously, this is through them leading their teams. One of the key elements or key characteristics, in my view, of successful program directors or leaders is the ability to manage and influence people that they don't have direct relation with. Because there's a wide variety of stakeholders. There's you might be working within an organization that you don't have any control over the staff that work there. You have to influence these staff. If you don't, you won't deliver. So between, being a very strong communicator, because you would usually have a large audience, and being able to know when to say no. So the basic element of strategy, when to say no, how to prioritize, how to communicate, is also a very, very important characteristics of good program leaders.
Fantastic. All right. Okay. So let me see. I have a question again. Another question. Do you think that a new clause or a set of clauses need to be included in new contracts to protect both client, PMCs, contractors against such event like COVID, and to mitigate against the contractual delays, financial impact, and project and program delivery in general?
That's a very interesting question, Dharam. So I started my career as a bridge engineer, and I remember when I was very, very early in my career, I was trying to deliver my first bridge design, and I was trying to make it very, very strong. And my senior at the time, who is still one of my mentors now, told me, you don't design a vehicular bridge to take a hit from an aeroplane, from a hostile aeroplane, right? You can't. If you can, but if you do this, it's very inefficient. So I would say the most current contracts have clauses related to catastrophes and other unprecedented events. I would agree with the person asking the question that it's not. In such unprecedented events, there's a lot of judgmental calls, and it's not as straightforward as other clauses related to, let's say, normal change in scope, budget, or anything else. So force majeure is what usually they call it in most contracts, and force majeure is an event that's beyond the control of any party, unforeseen, unprecedented. So this clause is there. Now, how you use it later on, goes back to our wizards, lawyers, who would then, if come to the table, probably delay your project quite a bit. So, can the terms be improved? Yes, but do we know what the next unprecedented event is and what the impact of it will be, so we can tailor the clause for it? I don't think so. We would have done it by now. So, I would say it's a yes and a no answer, and I know it's not a very straightforward answer. But that's what the reality is.
Yeah, but to cover the pandemic situation like this one,
I think that the pandemic situation to me is quite clear in terms of being a major force majeure, and I don't think any client, hopefully most reasonable clients would not argue this. It's the impact and clauses that cover the impact that maybe takes a bit of time for clients and contractors to resolve.
Exactly. Yeah. So nobody can control what's happening around us. So even if you have a clause, and most people understand the work is delayed or impacted because not somebody is trying to doing that, but it's more because of the external factors. So we do talk about external factor. We do talk about risk mitigation. You know, you have a reserve, contingency reserve, management reserves. So that's what you have to see. How, I mean, yes, you cover your risk by having contingency reserve. That is for known risk, but you can have extra funding in your management reserve. These reserves are only for situation like this, which is we cannot identify, we cannot do anything with that. So we have unknown unknowns. So management reserve can be one of the way we can handle some situation.
Very well said, Dharam. I agree. But we need to keep in mind, and the team or the listeners should keep in mind that this is very contextual in nature. And I can give just one very quick example. So if you think of a contractor who has already delivered most of his material on site and has the workforce in place, and then being faced by COVID, then dealing with COVID, and the neighboring contractor, and let's say a project right next to it, who is still halfway in delivering their materials for whatever reasons, and who has team and workforce coming from outside the country that they're operating in, and these two being hit by COVID will have completely different impacts on their progress and on their ability to deliver, and hence their claiming or use of clauses that can cover their losses. So there's a lot of context that comes into such situations that need to be taken care of, but absolutely management reserves and reserves at different levels can be very helpful.
Yeah. There's a follow-on comment from Mr. Garbi. Agree with you, but contractors are asking for claims for changing a law regarding some restriction to site also, and the force majeure is not covering such event.
Can you repeat the question, Dharam? I kind of got the end of it, but not the very beginning.
Yeah. So agree with you, but the contractors are asking for claim for changing a law regarding some restriction to the site. So now we have more restriction, social distancing and few other things. So such measures are not covered in the force measures. So how to deal with situation like this? You got it?
But I wouldn't. Yes, I did. I think I'll repeat the question just to make sure that I answered the right question. So I think the question is about the force majeure clause covering closures of sites in this specific situation of COVID.
It's not only closure, but also restriction on the site. Like now,
accessibility and restriction.
Yeah.
It's to me, and I think in most cases, to me, it's the disruption. So force majeure leads to disruption. Disruption could be different ways. One of the ways or one of the means of disruption is inability to access the site or not having control over the site. So I would say it is covered under force majeure, but again, the context and the impact is not very clearly defined, and it's very contextual in nature.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next question. I hope you're doing all right. Everything okay?
Thank you.
So how can relationship building? So we know it's very, very important, relationship, stakeholder engagement. So how can relationship building, a technical skill, be learned and mastered? More about stakeholder engagement, because especially you're dealing with so many different type of stakeholders, especially your team, and how do you use this skill and how to build that?
Sure. So I'll start by saying that without trust, delivering programs is almost impossible. And the more trust you have, the more you will deliver. The toughest thing in doing business is dealing with people, and many businessmen you talk to will tell you that. So you want to make sure that you establish this from day one. you will never establish full trust from day one or year one, maybe. So what you need to do is commit to delivery. When you made and then when you make a commitment, you have to deliver it. I think, like in any program or any project, mistakes will happen. You do your best in identifying why this took place, lessons learned, making very good use of lessons learned, and show very clearly where these lessons learned are being used holistically to improve delivery and improve this level of trust. Because trust is usually broken due to either missed promises under delivery or mistakes. You know, so my answer to this question is with a very, very big assumption that you're intending to do a good job. You're intending to deliver, and you're doing your best endeavor to do so. If that's the case, then building trust is much easier. You know, what you have to do is keep adjusting. Trust is two ways. So you want to make sure that you define the expectations, clarify them, and keep clarifying them along the way. And with every change, you go over this definition one more time and never stop. And then when you deliver, you want to celebrate success. You want to share this success with your partners, so they develop trust in you. And you have to deal with some people, situations where trust will never be established. It's not all, pinky and rosy, to be honest. There will be situations, or there will be groups of people within your stakeholder pool that will never trust you. So you'll have to do your best. You'll not be able to satisfy everyone, but you should aim at delivering and continuously improving what you deliver. And if you do that, and if you prioritize also your relationships, because you and your team and the stakeholders you're dealing with have limited number of hours a day, whether we like it or not. And prioritizing which stakeholders, what is the main benefit behind gaining this trust, and ensuring that you hit the big ticket items first in terms of trust and relationship building will help you along the way. And like every other aspect of program management, getting the right team with the right integrity and the right technical background is an absolute must in earning this trust and building the relationship.
Yeah, perfect. And you're learning from PgMP study, going through the standard for program management. We talked about the stakeholder engagement using various tools and techniques such as stakeholder register, stakeholder mapping, analyzing the stakeholders. So all this will help in understanding a stakeholder and building rapport with them.
Absolutely. If you don't start with the basics, you will never you'll be lost. So again, my assumption is if you're going into this, you know what you're doing, you have your plans in place, and you're utilizing them to achieve what we just said.
Perfect. All right, let me see another question. My name is Dharam. Sorry, I can't. Okay, let me read the question. Okay, my question is what is your overview of infrastructure related project future in Middle East? And their PgMP qualification is how valuable in infrastructure projects?
Sure. So two questions. And I think like the previous one, I'll answer the second question first about the PgMP and its appreciation in the context of the Middle East. Like anywhere else in the world, learning and earning certifications that come from trusted bodies is invaluable. Not only to the organization that you're going to join or the client that you're going to be working with, but also to the person. I think if you go into any of these certifications with an open mind that you're trying to learn and structure the way you think, you'll be much better off. If it's just a tick in the box that you've achieved the certification, you've received your degree or certificate, it's not going to do you any good. I would say don't do it. You're wasting your time. So it definitely be appreciated and will be very useful. Now, in terms of the infrastructure, this is a very long question. I don't think we have enough, I'll answer it at a very high level. The Middle East, compared to other parts of the world, many parts of it are quite young. So this is where infrastructure engineers, asset managers, or asset developers are, strive, because there's a lot of open ground. So if I would compare my work I did in the U.S. and I was in the East Coast to the work I'm doing now in the Middle East, I would say there's a lot of retrofitting work. There's quite a few big programs as well. High-speed rail where WSP is. We have a large development projects for the JFK and LaGuardia airports. But in terms of mass and number of and amounts of work going on at the same time, we're always racing time here. So you have the World Cup, you have Expo 2020, you have the next event that we'll hear about soon, and that's where big chunks of land have to be developed, and people, continuous movement of expatriates, locals, and a very diversified mixture of people are moving in and out. So I think there's going to be a lot of infrastructure development in the region, to varying degrees depending on the country. And there will be a lot of asset management as well, because a lot of infrastructure has already been built, which has to be managed going forward.
Perfect. And I'm actually getting more and more calls from my friends in Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and UAE. And suddenly they are saying that the PgMP and PfMP is getting more attention in some of the like high-profile infrastructure programs. So they have the basic hygiene, which is the PMP, and agile in this environment will not work. But what can work for you or help you more, having PgMP or PfMP? So this certificate definitely add value, not just for having a certificate, but from the learning point of view. And as we talked about stakeholder engagement, we talked about the benefit management. All this will be very well managed by having a PgMP and PfMP. Okay. So other thing is, and other thing is, I got an invite from PMI Saudi Arabia chapter to talk. I have a topic to talk how to thrive and survive, not only survive but thrive in this COVID environment. So I will be delivering that webinar on 16th of November. So keep your diaries open for that day. If you are in the Saudi Arabia chapter member, you will get the invite anyway. But anyway, I'm doing other with other chapters as well. So I'm getting more and more invite for such events. So keep an eye on such programs. I like to reveal. As I mentioned earlier, I don't have the approved code from PMI, that PDU code. So people who are joining, they will get an email with the code once we have the approved code. But people who are listening, if you can send me an email that I have watched the video and the code I've given you is DMV. So from Dr. Mohamed Nazier, all the first letters, DMV. So you can, when you're sending email, just put that message that I've watched the video, and of course I'd like to know the feedback, how you feel about, whether you liked it or not. I know there's some constraint, you don't see Dr. Nazier as we like to see him on screen, but because he's sitting in the car and low bandwidth and many other constraints. But I like to see the feedback, and also mention that you have a code called the DMV, and this code will be applicable only for 1 year. If you're watching after 1 year, I'm sure you will be you will not able to use the same code. But anyway, so some logistics side. Anything else you have to say, Mohammed? I have a few more questions to go.
Sure, please go ahead with questions. I want to make sure that we answer as many questions as we can.
Yeah. So the another question from audience is how to employers, your employee, reinforce mutual trust and keep their motivation when most of the companies are reducing staff, not providing any clarity about near future industry.
I would say this is a very so it's it's a very general question, and I'm not sure if I get the intent correct, but I don't think all employers are reducing staff haphazardly. I think most companies I've seen, at least, I've dealt with, definitely my own WSP, has been very, very diligent in terms of managing the COVID situation. It's unprecedented, it's tough, it's having big strains on companies and the bottom lines. But I think good companies, as I mentioned, will come out stronger because they'll have to deal with this. And companies who deal with not only their clients, but also their employees the right way. And the right way is very subjective sometimes. Unfortunately, some people are losing their jobs. Some people are being made redundant. Some people are having to work part-time. But you always have to remember, if there is no money in the business will close, and then jobs will be lost. But this will be a whole business lost. So it's a fine balance that leaders have to manage. Those with a fair view, with a structured way of dealing with this situation, will come out stronger. And if you're working for a company that's not appreciating this, my suggestion would be find a better company. And I'm telling you, sooner or later, the market will pick up again.
Yeah. So be ready for that. And that's why, in this situation, when employers or companies are letting people go, it's not that they're letting go everybody. And as you mentioned earlier, you have to look after the talents. You don't want to lose your talents. So if you as an employee, you are one of the best employees. So having right experience and having certificates and education and your attitude will help you to stay within the organization, also help you to grow in the organization. Okay, so anything else?
Thank you, Dharam.
Yeah, so let me repeat the code. I think I may have given you wrong code. The code is DMN, Dr. Mohamed Nazier, DMN for Mohamed, Nazier N, so DMN. So people who watch in the webinar now, you don't have to send me email for that, but the people watching later on, they will be giving me code and I will be giving them PT code. Okay, so DMN. I'll take this, DMN. Okay, so and are you okay to take one more question? I do have lots of questions, but I know you are sure. The car.
Well, we started late, and I think we owe it to our listeners.
Okay, great. Thanks for your generosity. So, what are your tips for managers hiring right talent? I think we have kind of touched this. Right talent and retaining best employee under them. So, how to?
So, what are my tips for managers keeping poor performing employees while letting go the top employers?
Yeah, while you have to let go
the question?
And how? Yeah, right.
Well, there's a clear answer to this question. Again, if this is the culture of the organization, and I don't know which organization you're speaking of, what the question is about. If this is the culture of the organization, I would advise you to leave this organization because it won't have a long-term plan for you if you're a good employee. But if this is a one-off instance, and we have to be careful with our judgments as well. If this is a one-off or a one manager that's kind of driving this behavior, definitely within a good organization you'll have more ways to influence this by talking to the right people, networking with the right mentors, and trying to maybe help. This could be happening because of a lack of experience. It could be happening because of other reasons. You might have maybe an opportunity to talk to your line manager if that's the case and help guide them. I think in today's time. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I think you misunderstood or I have not explained the question properly.
Okay.
So, what are the tips for manager hiring the right talent? How they should be hiring and retaining the best talent?
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a much better question. Good. Hiring the right talent and retention. Talent acquisition is the key success factor in my view for consultants and for any organization, especially consultants who and contractors, or main assets are people and then other resources. So the hiring process has to be very, very transparent. There should be very clear guidance in terms of the position description, the needs. You should level the playing field for every applicant to avoid any skew for any reason. And sometimes these are reasons within someone's control, and sometimes the reasons that are unforeseen. So leveling the playing field by having the appropriate description for the role, good preparation for the employee by giving them information ahead of the interview, which I think some companies don't do, and then finally having a diversified panel that does the interviews is very important at every step of the way. So if you're filtering through different CVs, you need to have more than one eye look at them. If you're interviewing in person, you need to have a diversified committee that's doing this. And then feedback. Feedback is very important for employees, whether they make it or not to your company. In terms of retention, it's one of the top, in today's time and age, and with the globalization and the ability of resources to be very mobile, it's one of the main challenges. There are different ways to deal with retention. The first one would be, in my view, appreciation. I don't think anybody would be upset with too much appreciation. So make sure you appreciate your employees. Make sure that you go through a structured approach in terms of guiding, mentoring, and managing them. So follow, usual aspects of setting targets, setting how you measure the targets, communicating this, giving continuous feedback, and then taking action. And then training. Make sure that you train your staff, and make sure you have a career path for them. And it doesn't matter whether the career path is someone wanting to take extended periods of time in a specific position, or someone who's more ambitious and wants to move up much faster and has the ability to. So you'll have to be very flexible in dealing with employees in terms of their abilities and their career paths. And if you listen, there's a lot that we can, if you truly listen to your employees and care, it will show, and they'll trust you, and they will definitely stay more than not.
Perfect. Good suggestion. Good tips. All right. So thank you. I can see a few questions here. For PMP, for a PMP certified, should we do PgMP first or PfMP? So Dr. Mohamed Nazier,
I think this one is for you, Dharam.
I know. So that's what I'm saying. You are not a PfMP. So next thing you have to do, you should be enrolling to my next PfMP program. Anyway. Okay. So, okay. And look, it depends on your aspiration. As a PMP, because PMI has not made any certificate like a hierarchical. You can be PMP, you can go directly to PgMP, PfMP, or you can follow a particular path. Generally, I'm saying generally, people go with PMP, then PgMP, and PfMP. And you can always bypass PgMP and go directly to PfMP. It depends on your current job and your aspirations. If you are moving towards some of the senior positions, and you feel having more, you need some strategic, understanding of strategic alignment and the value measurements, and you are working in that environment, so then PfMP can be the better choice for you. But if you are into the program management, yeah, definitely you should go for PgMP. Okay. And another question is, again, for me, looks like, what time frame is considered reasonable to cover all materials? So maybe you can start. Let's start with you. You started and you spent 1 year, Nazier, Mohamed Nazier, that you did 1 year before you realized that you need some guidance.
Yes. Absolutely. There's different elements that contribute to what you should do to prepare. Obviously, the first one being your time resource. How much time do you have? And if you have any limitation when you need to get the certification done. I would highly advise a course, or but I would say a course from someone who's trusted, tried. I'm not trying to market for Dharam. He's not paying me for this. but go with someone who's trusted, who's been tested, who's also more than just about giving you or getting you through the finish line. Someone who's actually going to teach you something new in addition to getting you the degree. And it all depends on your timeline. Do a lot of reading before you take a course. It will help. And get a lot of sleep before the exam and eat well. This would be my advice.
Yeah, good. So thank you. So in terms of timeline, the timeline it depends what kind of study structure you have. If you're doing self, it can take years and years. I've seen people doing self-learning, but it's a long journey. But most people who do my program, whether you're doing virtual bootcamp or mentoring program, they take around 2 to 3 months, and that's a reasonable time. If you want to do earlier, that is possible. That means you have to give up everything else around the world, because if we have to be practical. If we are working, we have family, they need that attention. So allow yourself to 1 to 2 hours every day, and if you do that, and over the weekend you can put more hours, I think you can complete your journey in 2 to 3 months, if not early. Going beyond 3 months, yeah, I think 4 months is still acceptable. But as you go more further and further away, you are moving away from your target. You may still be trying, but more further you go, you start losing your connection with your vision. So my suggestion is, when you start a PgMP or PfMP, any journey, you start with the aim that I want to complete my journey in 3 months. Okay, and maybe you can have a date in your mind. I think that can be a better way to say, okay, this is why by 30th of November, I will complete my PgMP or PfMP. And then you do the back calculation, what you have to do, what books you need, and who you're going to talk to as a mentor, or whatever is required. Do that back calculation. As we are good project managers, program manager, we should be identifying all the steps, and we should be identifying any risk in this effort. Okay, there are more questions about PgMP, PfMP, so looks like we are not touched too much on PgMP, so that's fine. So can you suggest a good technique and a method for preparation of PgMP certification? I'll let you speak first. So what technique you use or method you use, and what can work for your audience here?
So techniques in terms of getting ready for the exam?
Yeah, what did you do to prepare, and some lesson learned, which can help
sure.
people who are preparing for PgMP?
Sure. I would. The PgMP is a bit different. It's very different from PMP in the sense of the book that's being used. It's very practical, so I would suggest reading the book a few times. And this advice came also from Dharam. Do multiple, I think start by doing a baseline exam. So take an exam, see where your best and poor quality, so you can prioritize your studying. Make sure that you go into or focus more on your points of weakness or needs for improvement. So take a baseline exam, and then from there start practicing using any of the books that you can find and get your hands on. If you do that and then retake some exams, this will definitely help you get to the finish line, and try and use it at work. So if you're doing this while you're working, try and take these techniques and use them. It will make a lot more sense when you go into the exam.
Exactly. And to tell you, I have 2 types of programs, rather 3 types of programs. One program is personal mentoring program. This is what you joined earlier. And I have a group mentoring program that goes for multiple weeks. So that goes for 6 weeks. every week we cover 2 chapters, and I will be giving you videos. And I think I think when we are learning, you're doing my program, at the time I was not giving videos, but now as part of the package, I'm giving you set of videos, and expectation is you watch the video, you done the readings from my book, the standard, and I will suggest a couple more books. So ideally, before you come to the session, you have done all the required study. You probably taken notes, you have a mind mapping, everything. When you come to the session, we will talk about some of the things which you're still struggling with, some gaps, and not only learning from me but other people as well. So that's a very good way of building a knowledge. You have learned in the videos and books. I don't want to repeat them. And you come and talk about your question, ask a question, and discuss something. And then we do 10 questions from the chapter. We're covering 2 chapters, so we're covering 20 questions. So this is where I will be analyzing how you're reading the question. Are you able to pick some tricks? With many questions, yes, you need to have knowledge and background about program management, but some question, if you're very careful, you can get the trick almost immediately, and you don't have to do any calculation. The question can be very 5, 10, 20 lines question, but if you are smart, you pick the trick in that, and you get the answer almost immediately. But if you are overthinking, and if you're not able to pick the tricks, then you're probably going to spend 4 or 5 minutes to answer that question and still going to get wrong. So a few of these things I'm going to teach while going through the programs, and highly recommend to join something multiple week program, whether it's a personal mentoring program or group mentoring program, and also with the third type program I have, I call virtual boot camp. This goes for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and depends upon, some people say I wanted to finish my program and then I will continue to build my knowledge on top of it. That's okay. That may be your priority. So that's where you can benefit from this type of program as virtual boot camp. So these programs are 3 days program, especially if you are in the US time zone, and 4 days program if you are in the Singapore, Australia time zone, and 5 day program if you are in the Middle East. And that means you have less hours. I've created this program in such a way that is not too much inconvenience to you. So 5 day program come with 5 hours per day, and 4 day program come with a 6 day per hour, 6 hours per day, and 3 days program is traditional boot camp where we have 8 hours per day. So all these programs are equally good. Doesn't matter where you are, you will get my full support throughout the journey. Even if you finish the 3 day program, that doesn't mean we have finished a relationship. You will get my support until you pass your exam. I will not stop until you got your certificate or you decided to give up. And I don't like people giving up, but I like to see you go all the way and get your certificate and give me one more number. I'm always look for number. At the moment, I have 289 PgMPs from 43 countries. So as you can see, I'm very particular about numbers. So I will do my best to push you to get you to other side. Of course, not for you, about me. It's all about me, not really. Okay, so this is a few programs I have. Of course, they have some fee structure. If you want, I can explain to you. You call me, and as a part of the webinar, I can give you some discounts. If you call me in the next 2 days, and I will give you a code which can save you some money as well. So please reach out to me, drop me a message, email after this. Dharam, I'm interested, and what can you offer me in terms of discount? But this is only for the people who are in the webinar, and somebody is watching may contact me, and at the time I might have some other deal going on. I think I've taken a lot of time here, but I think I've done just.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Let me take a couple more questions. Small. I'm not going through my list now. I'm just looking at audience questions, and I know you have to go. Can we aim for?
I'll have to run, Dharam.
Okay, so you can leave, and I will continue with a couple of questions, and I can answer PgMP related questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Dharam.
Thank you for giving us your time. I know it was difficult for you, but appreciate your contribution. Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye,
All right.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so let me continue with some of the questions I am getting on the. I mean, now you can fire questions about PgMP, PfMP. I'm happy to stay as long as there are questions. Maybe PfMP or PgMP, doesn't matter. So I'm looking at another question. Can we aim for a PgMP if we have experience of executing multiple projects together? So if you are running multiple projects together and they don't have any interdependency, that will not help you. So definition of program is you're running multiple projects and they have interdependency and common outcome. Okay. Whether the organization is calling this is a program or project doesn't matter. What matters is you're running multiple projects, they have interdependency and they have common outcome or benefits realization. So these kind of things you can definitely, if you're running such program, you can apply for PgMP. And by the way, you can book some time with me and I can discuss your specific situation you are in. And if you're not very clear whether you are eligible for PgMP or not, or I mean, happy to talk to you and look at your profile, LinkedIn profile, and talk to you and give you my feedback. And again, doesn't matter what role you are doing. You may be designated as a project manager. You may be called as even project coordinator. You will not believe one lady from Kenya. She contacted me that I wanted to PgMP. My designation is Deputy Project Coordinator. First of all, it's a project coordinator, which is not even project manager, and deputy means even junior to the project coordinator. But realize that she's actually running multi-billion-dollar work, infrastructure work in Kenya, building roads and airport, hospitals, many work she's doing. So you can see the designation has nothing to do with the work you're doing. And yes, she is eligible for PgMP. She attended my program and she working towards getting a PgMP. So don't get worried. Look, my job is, my title is this. I may not be eligible. So if you are in doubt, please book your time with me, free, no obligation. I will be happy to give you 15 minutes, 20 minutes. While the time is 50 minutes, but I can, I spend hours and hours to keep explaining until you're satisfied. Okay. So Nitin, if you have something like this, please come back to me. I will talk to you. So one more question I have is, which one easier to pass for experienced professional? I'm assuming you're talking PgMP, PfMP based on the previous question. See, which one is easy to pass? First of all, it depends upon your role. I mean, and how much you know about your role, And let me tell you, exam is easy or difficult. It depends on how ready you are. Some people will struggle in doing CAPM exam if you're not ready for the exam. But I have seen people, even PgMP exam, they pass the exam like walking in the park. I tell you, one person from Washington, in US, Washington, DC, he worked for Microsoft. And he told me that he was able to complete first 90 questions in 1 hour and 10 minutes. And we are talking about PgMP exam. 1 hour and 10 minutes, not even minute to minute a question. He was under a minute per question. Then he took a break. Then he spent another half an hour. He was at 135 questions. Okay, so we are still talking PgMP exam. Then he took another, he finished everything in 3 hours and 10 minutes and went back a few times to see, if something is wrong or not. So he passed the exam with the above target. So, but this person was very, actually, I'm talking to him. Next webinar is with him. So his name is Jason. Jason, we have a webinar with him on 23rd of this month. So please join and he will learn from him. So he is very structured. He was, when I was talking to him, actually he was in my personal mentor program. So his room was full of posters, his whiteboard. all whiteboard fill up with all kind of data flow diagram and connection, this and that. So I was very impressed the way he has structured himself. So I was not surprised when you said, Dharam, I was able to complete whole exam in around 3 hours. And this was, 90 question less than 1 hour, 10 minutes. So he made the exams look so easy. Even many people struggle in PMP exam, but he made the exam so easy. So whether you go for PgMP or PfMP, you should not just think which one is easier, because both of them will give you it will help you to grow in the organization. How it will help you, in which certificate will help you, that's what you have to see. And I will suggest, if you are eligible for both, I will suggest to start with PgMP, and within 2 months, I'm telling, within 2 months of getting a PgMP, you can do PfMP as well. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of things you're going to learn as part of the PgMP, you will able to use that as part of the PfMP experience. So when you are going through the strategy alignment, when you're looking at the risk management, you're looking at the communication management and governance. So all this will help you when we're talking as a PfMP exam. Okay. And just a reminder, while we're not talking about PfMP here, but let me remind you, if you are preparing or anybody is preparing for PfMP at this stage, exam is still based on Standard for Portfolio Management 3rd edition. While there's a book available as a 4th edition, and this is available to buy since 2018, but the exam is still based on 3rd edition. So be careful, be mindful when you buy any book. The exam is still based on 3rd edition. I'm talking about PfMP, not PgMP. PfMP exam is based on the Standard for Portfolio Management 3rd edition. So when you're buying the book, I have few copies as well. If you can't find in PMI or anywhere, Amazon is not selling. But if you want looking for such book in the 3rd edition, I have few copies, so you can buy from me. But buy only 3rd edition. And if you're in doubt, please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to explain it to you, which book you have to buy, which supporting material you should have. And don't just go for the free material, by the way, guys. There are a lot of material available online, whether it is somebody has created a PMP questions and he converted it to PMP, to PGMP to PfMP questions. Just be mindful about that. When you are downloading question, let's say you thought it's a good question, so make sure you know what is the source of these questions, what is the quality of this question, who is the author of this question. If the questions are written by somebody known in the industry as one of the mentors, you can think of, yes, you can buy this question or download the question. But if you feel like you are more than welcome to talk to me. I have been training PgMP since 2009 and PfMP since 2018. So I have seen a lot of people going through my program. So I will guide you. Yes, you may feel it can be conflict of interest. I will be very appreciative about my work, which is, I think it is, and also talk about some other books, Dr. Ginger Levin and few other books, and tell you why you should have that book, because Dr. Ginger's book is very, people don't find it very easy to go through. Very hard question, very complex question, and scenario-based question. Some questions doesn't make any sense, but I still ask my students to go through that. My philosophy is, if you have to fail, fail now, because her exam can make you fail you miserable. And I like you to do those questions when you're feeling very comfortable. So do those questions and fail if you have to. You may get 39%, 35 questions, 40% question, 40% as a score. But what matters is how you're going to recover from that. Even if you're getting 35%, if you go back to the books and see what was missing in your learning, and read the full book again, and this time your mindset or reading will be much different. This time you start lining or underlining or writing each and every small things from the question, from the book. And that is where, when you start doing the next set of question from Dr. Ginger Levin, your answering will be much better. You will be more comfortable when you are going for the exam. And that is where people like Jason, they are completing the exam in 3 hours because they have seen very difficult questions. And when they see the question in exam, they may not be as difficult as Ginger's question. And you will be, your confidence level very, very high. And you will give me one more PgMP and PfMP. All right, so last question, I think I'm okay to stay here, but I'm seeing another question here. What is the pricing for PgMP and PfMP training with you, okay, for me, and how you are delivering the training? So, okay, so good question. As I mentioned, I have 3 types of program. One is a personal mentoring program that will cost you at this stage $2,499 US, $2,499 US for personal mentoring program, and that program goes for up to 12 sessions of 1 hour. And we don't repeat the slides. We talk about the specific questions you have. So we talk about the case study. So that when you say personal mentoring program is really value for you, it is where we can move the program based on your availability. So because sometimes you can busy, so I can move around the time and dates. So that's the personal mentoring program, 2499. And second program is group mentoring program, and that will cost you 1799. And I'm starting one program actually on 16th. That will be my time as 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. I'm in California at the moment. Why I'm telling you, because I cannot tell time for everyone, but that time is a Pacific time, 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock morning. And just to give you some indication, it will be 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock in Saudi Arabia. That's Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and few other countries. And it will be 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock for UAE. Okay. So if you have a question about that, I can talk to you. So that program will cost you 1799. And there's a third type of program, which is I call as virtual bootcamp. That will cost you 1499. And that is, there are a few programs already planned. One program coming up on 25th, 26th, 27th. That's a 3 days program. And this is on the US time zone. And end of the month, I have a program which is covering Middle East. So feel free to contact me. Yeah, and if you contact me within the next 2 days, I will offer you a discount code, which will save you some money. And and if you have some specific situation because of COVID, you cannot pay me upfront, we can talk about some payment plans. All right, so I hope I have given you enough. And I don't want to talk about PgMP, PfMP specifically about my program, which you already can find in the website, and you can always contact me. But there are questions, so I address them. So it was really a great session. I had one of the very interesting and knowledgeable person, Dr. Mohamed Nazier. He was very open. He gave us a lot of insightful information, and I cannot thank him more, especially because he was going through some situation personally, and he has to come to hospital. So that's so grateful. Even after that situation, he spent time with us. And I would like to thank all of you to stay even half an hour longer than the program time. So I hope I have given you enough, and I like to continue to contribute to you guys. And as I mentioned, if you feel like you wanted to contribute, you want to join my program, or you want to see somebody, one of your leader or somebody who's pioneer in their field, you want to see Dharam, can you bring this person for us? And we like to listen from him as well, even though he is not my student. And if you connect me to him, I like to bring him and bring their knowledge to you guys. So thank you very much, and really appreciate you staying that long, and can't wait to help you more with your certification journey, or even you don't need anything else, please feel free to book some time with me. I'll be more than happy to help you. All right, once again, thank you, and see you next time on 23rd of September with Jason from Washington. He works for Microsoft. So you're going to learn a lot from him as well. All right. So guys, see you next time. Thank you.